I found out I was banned from the company's award ceremony the same way I found out most things in that place, by accident, and just late enough to make it sting. It was a Tuesday, around 4:30 p.m., that weird dead zone when people pretend to work but mostly refresh their inboxes. I was walking back from the kitchen with a coffee that already tasted like regret when I saw the email over someone's shoulder. Subject line: Annual Excellence Awards, Final Attendee List. My name wasn't on it. I didn't react. That's kind of my thing. I just kept walking, sat down at my desk, and opened my own inbox. Nothing. No invite. No explanation. Just silence. And yeah, that didn't sit right. Let me rewind a bit. I'd been at the company for 6 years. Not flashy years. Not the kind where you rack up promotions and LinkedIn posts about thriving under pressure. My version looked more like staying late to fix problems no one else wanted, quietly cleaning up messes that never made it into reports, and making sure projects didn't fall apart when someone important dropped the ball. I wasn't a star. But I was necessary. That was the deal I had with myself. Stay steady, stay useful, don't chase attention. It's a decent strategy, until it isn't. Because attention, I learned, isn't just about ego. It's about protection. And I had none. The humiliation didn't start with the awards thing. That was just the cleanest example. It was more like a pattern. Small things at first. Meetings where my ideas got ignored until someone else repeated them 10 minutes later. Emails where I'd be left off the thread, then asked why I hadn't contributed. Projects where I'd do the groundwork, and someone else would present the vision. You know the type. You smile, nod, say, no worries, and keep going. Because what's the alternative? You complain, you look difficult. You push back, you get labeled not a team player. So you swallow it. And I got good at swallowing it. His name was Lawson. Senior Director. Corner office. The kind of guy who walked into rooms like he was already halfway through a speech no one else had agreed to listen to. Derek didn't yell. That would have been easier to deal with. He was polished. Controlled. The kind of condescending that sounded like mentorship if you weren't paying attention. Good effort, man, he'd say, leaning back in his chair like he owned gravity. But let's tighten up the strategic angle next time. Translation, *, you did the work. I'll take the credit, *. He had this habit of resting his hand on the back of your chair when he talked to you. Not aggressive. Just territorial. Like you were part of the furniture. And yeah, I let it slide. For a long time. Because I thought I understood the game. I was wrong. The award I didn't get invited to? It was for operational excellence. My department. My projects. My year. I knew that before I even checked the official announcement. The winner was a guy named Brian. Nice enough. Smart, sure. But Brian had been on the project for maybe 3 months. I'd been there from day one. I trained him. When the announcement came out, the office did that polite applause thing. People glanced at me, then quickly looked away. No one said anything. But they knew. That's the thing about workplaces. People see everything. They just don't want to be the one who says it out loud. That night, I went home, dropped my bag by the door, and stood in the kitchen staring at nothing for a good minute. My wife, Claire, was at the table, laptop open, glasses halfway down her nose. She looked up. You okay? I shrugged. Yeah. Just a long day. She didn't buy it. Claire never bought it. Sit, she said, tapping the chair across from her. I sat. What happened? I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to tell her. Because saying it out loud made it real. They're having the award ceremony next week, I said. And? I'm not invited. She blinked. Wait. What? I gave a small, humorless laugh. Yeah. Apparently, I didn't make the list. Claire leaned back, studying me. That doesn't make sense. You've been carrying that whole team for months. Apparently not officially. She closed her laptop slowly. So what are you going to do? I stared at the table. Nothing. Nothing, she repeated. What am I supposed to do? Send an email like, "Hey, you forgot me?" That just makes me look desperate. She tilted her head. Or it makes you look like someone who knows his worth. I shook my head. That's not how it works there. Maybe that's the problem, she said quietly. Claire's a lawyer. Not the loud, courtroom kind. The kind who reads things 3 times and finds the one sentence everyone else missed. She doesn't react fast. She reacts accurately. And she was looking at me like I just accepted something I shouldn't have. Let me ask you something, she said. Do you think this was an oversight? I didn't answer right away. Because deep down, I already knew. No, I said finally. Okay, she nodded. Then it's a decision. Yeah. And decisions have reasons. I exhaled. What are you getting at? She folded her hands. I'm saying, if someone made a deliberate choice to exclude you, they probably assumed you wouldn't push back. I looked up at her. And if they're wrong about that, she continued, that's where things get interesting. That night, I didn't sleep much. Not because I was angry. I'd been angry before. This felt different. Clearer. Like something had finally clicked into place. I started thinking back over the last year. The projects, the meetings, the emails. Patterns. Derek's fingerprints were everywhere. He didn't just take credit. He managed visibility. Controlled narratives. Decided who got seen and who stayed in the background. And I had played my role perfectly. Quiet. Reliable. Invisible. Exactly the kind of person you can exclude without consequences. Unless there's something you missed. The leverage didn't come from nowhere. It came from the same place everything else did, my work. About 4 months earlier, we'd had a situation. Not a crisis, but close enough. A major client account had discrepancies in their reporting. Numbers didn't line up. Timelines were off. Derek had been the one handling that account. Officially. Unofficially. I'd done the deep dive. Late nights, spreadsheets, cross-checking data that didn't want to be understood. And I'd found something. Not illegal. Not dramatic. Just wrong. Processes that hadn't been followed. Approvals that were skipped. Documentation that was, let's say, creatively interpreted. I'd flagged it. Quietly. Sent Derek a detailed report. He thanked me. Said he'd handle it. And that was the last I heard of it. At the time, I let it go. Figured it was above my pay grade. Now it looked different. Because I still had everything. Every email. Every version of the report. Time-stamped, organized, sitting in a folder I hadn't touched since. I wasn't planning on using it. But I hadn't deleted it either. The next morning, I got to the office early. Not dramatic early. Just enough to have a quiet hour before the noise started. I opened that folder. Read through everything again. No mistakes. No exaggerations. Just facts. That was important. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making a scene. It was about correction. I opened a new email. Stared at the blank screen for a while. Then I started typing. I didn't send it to Derek. That would have been pointless. I sent it to the people Derek reported to. Senior leadership. The kind of inboxes that usually filter out noise. The subject line was simple. Clarification on recent project attribution and attendance decisions. Yeah, it was a mouthful. But it did the job. The email itself was calm. That's the word I'd use. I didn't accuse anyone. Didn't raise my voice, metaphorically speaking. I laid out the timeline. My involvement in the projects. The documentation I had. The discrepancies I'd previously reported. And then, almost as an afterthought, I mentioned the award ceremony. Given the scope of my contributions, I wrote, I was surprised to find that I was neither nominated nor included in the attendee list. I would appreciate clarification on how these decisions were made, particularly in light of the attached materials. Attached materials. That's where the weight was. I read it twice. Made a couple of edits. Removed anything that sounded emotional. Then I hovered over send. For a second, I thought about Claire. What are you going to do? I clicked. Nothing happened immediately. No dramatic replies. No emergency meetings. Just quiet. Which, in that place, usually meant something was happening behind the scenes. Around 11 a.m., Derek walked into the office. Same posture. Same energy. But there was a slight pause when he saw me. Barely noticeable. But it was there. He walked over. Hey, he said, casual as ever. Got a minute? I nodded. We stepped into a conference room. Glass walls. Of course. He closed the door, turned to me, and gave a small smile. So, he said, I saw your email. Figured you might. He leaned against the table. That was unexpected. I imagine. He studied me for a second. You could have come to me directly. I met his gaze. I did. 4 months ago. A flicker. Just a flicker. That situation was handled, he said. Was it? I asked, evenly. His smile tightened. Look, I get that you're frustrated. But escalating like this, it creates unnecessary noise. Clarity isn't noise, I said. For a moment, the room felt smaller. He straightened. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I shrugged. I didn't make it anything. I just documented what was already there. Silence. Then he exhaled, slow. We'll sort this out. I'm sure you will. He nodded once, then left. By the end of the day, the tone of the office had shifted. People were quieter. More careful. Around 3 p.m., I got a calendar invite. Meeting, senior leadership review. No description. Just a room and a time. Classic. The meeting room was bigger than most. Not huge, but big enough to signal importance. When I walked in, there were 4 people already seated. Including Derek. He didn't look at me. Good. I took a seat. One of the executives, a woman named Karen, sharp eyes, no nonsense, started. Thanks for coming, she said. We've reviewed the materials you sent. I nodded. She glanced at Derek. And we've had some internal discussions. There it was. She turned back to me. First, we want to acknowledge your contributions to the projects in question. It's clear that your role was substantial. That was corporate, for we missed something big. Second, she continued, we're conducting a broader review of how project ownership and recognition are assigned. Derek shifted slightly. And third, she said, regarding the award ceremony, your exclusion appears to have been an oversight." I didn't react. Because we all knew it wasn't. "But," she added, "we'd like to correct that." She slid a printed invitation across the table. "Front row." Not that it mattered. I looked at it, then back at her. "I appreciate that." There was a pause. Then she leaned forward slightly. "Is there anything else you'd like to add?" I thought about it. About the last 6 years. About the quiet, the patience, the swallowed frustration. Then I shook my head. "No. I think this covers it." The fallout wasn't loud. No announcements. No public apologies. Just adjustments. Derek stopped running certain projects. His name appeared less often in emails. People who used to orbit around him started keeping their distance. Brian came by my desk one afternoon. Awkward, hands in his pockets. "Hey, man," he said. "I didn't realize." "I know," I said. He nodded. "You should have been up there." I gave a small smile. "It's fine." And it was. Because this wasn't about the award. The night of the ceremony, I showed up on time. Wore a suit I hadn't worn in a while. Claire came with me. As we walked in, she squeezed my hand. "Proud of you," she said. I nodded. "Thanks." The room was all lights and polite laughter. The usual. When my name was called, because yes, they added a category, reshuffled things, I walked up, accepted the plaque, said a few words. Nothing dramatic. Just, measured. "Recognition matters," I said. "Not just for the result, but for the work behind it. I'm glad we're having that conversation." That was it. I stepped down. Later that night, back home, I set the plaque on the kitchen counter. Claire looked at it, then at me. "So, worth it?" I thought for a second. "Yeah," I said. "But not for this." I tapped the plaque. "For finally not staying quiet." She smiled. "Took you long enough." I laughed. "Yeah. Guess it did. The thing is, I didn't win because I exposed someone. I won because I stopped being invisible. And once people could see me, they couldn't pretend I wasn't there. Funny how that works.